Hey everybody, it's Pastor Brewer. You're watching Metro Morning Manna, and we have been studying together Daniel, the first chapter. We're going to look at verse 8 today. Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and the wine, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now, yesterday we were reminded that a lot of what Daniel and his friends encountered in Babylon would have gone against things that they believed. They were learning of false worship. They were learning not just of Babylonian sciences and mathematics, but also astrology and occult practices. There's a lot that they would have learned that was not good based on their religious upbringing and religious views. Furthermore, they were given names that were names of the Babylonian gods and given honor to the Babylonian gods through these names that they received. And Daniel and his friends did not object to the names. They didn't object to the education, but they objected to the food. And the big question is, well, why object to the food? What's the big deal about the food? But Daniel and his friends had an understanding that what they ate could defile their body if they ate the king's food. That's the word that Daniel uses more than one time in that verse. He says to the chief official, he says, I don't want to defile myself. That word defile, what he's saying is that God has a will for my life. And his will for my life apparently included being taken as a captive in Babylon, learning Babylon's educational system, learning Babylon's religious practices, having a Babylonian name. But when it came to food, Daniel said, God's will for me is not to eat this unclean stuff, not to eat this stuff that is probably offered to your gods and your idols and so forth. And so the Bible says he refused because he did not want to be defiled. That word defiled just means that he understood God had a plan and he did not want to go off course. Isn't that interesting? This view of God's will. Many times we are careful about some things, but in other things we're not very careful with how we live and what we do and so forth. Daniel was careful to make sure that he stayed in the middle, the center of God's will. And his desire not to eat the king's food was because he did not want to veer off course from God's plan for his life. I believe God has a plan for all of us. God has a will for our lives. And as we are connected to God, then it is revealed to us what we need to do in order to stay in his perfect will. And so like Daniel, we can say we don't want to be defiled. We don't want to veer off course, but we want to live our life in accordance with the will of God, the perfect will of God. I want to challenge you to get so connected to God so that you can stay in God's perfect will for your life. God bless you. Peace.